In the vibrant heart of Lagos, Nigeria, bustling with life and the relentless pursuit of dreams, lived Adaobi, a woman whose beauty was only surpassed by her ambition. Married to Chike, a modest teacher whose income barely scratched the surface of their needs, Adaobi always felt destined for a grander life, one filled with luxury and opulence. Adaobi's days were spent in a constant state of restlessness, her eyes always scanning her surroundings, hungry for a glimpse of the life she believed she deserved. Chika, on the other hand, was a man content with his humble existence, finding joy in the simple pleasures of life, his students, his wife, and the small flat they called home in one of Lagos's bustling neighborhoods. The turning point came on a sultry Saturday afternoon during a friend's lavish wedding reception. The event was held at an opulent estate that seemed to scream of wealth and excess, the kind of place Adaobi had dreamed of living in since she was a little girl. It was there that she met Femi, a man whose presence commanded attention. Dressed impeccably in a designer suit, he exuded an aura of wealth and importance that drew Adaobi to him like a moth to a flame. As they conversed, Femi mentioned, with a casual flick of his wrist, that he was involved in the oil business, an industry known for its lucrative payouts. His stories of international travel, high-stake deals, and hobnobbing with society's elite made Adaobi's heart race with excitement and desire. Driven by her newfound acquaintance, Adaobi found herself increasingly detached from her mundane life with Chike. She fantasized about a life of grandeur with Femi, believing he was the key to the opulent lifestyle she craved. Each night as she lay next to her husband, her mind wandered to luxurious apartments, exotic cars, and glittering social events. Her obsession didn't go unnoticed. Chike, who had always loved Adaobi with a quiet and steady passion, began to sense her growing distance. He observed her endless preoccupation with designer clothes, her hours spent on social media ogling the lives of the rich and famous, and her diminishing interest in their shared simple joys. One day, as Adaobi returned from one of her many attempts to accidentally run into Femi at various high-end locations, Chike decided it was time to confront her. The air in their small living room was heavy as he spoke, his voice filled with a mixture of hurt and frustration. "Adaobi, what has come over you? Can't you see that these illusions of wealth and grandeur are tearing us apart?" Adaobi, caught off guard and defensive, retorted sharply, "What do you know of my dreams, Chike? You, who are satisfied with mediocrity and poverty, I deserve more than this, more than you can offer." The argument that night was fierce and painful. Tears were shed, harsh words were exchanged, and for the first time in their marriage, Adaobi slept on the couch, her heart and mind in turmoil. The next morning, Adaobi made a decision that would change the course of her life. She penned a note to Chike, her words cold and final, telling him she was leaving him to pursue the life she deserved. With her bags packed, she left their home at dawn, her eyes not daring to meet the tear-stained pillow on their bed. She met with Femi, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. Femi, surprised but pleased by her decision, welcomed her with open arms into his world, or so she thought. As weeks turned into months, the truth about Femi began to unravel. The luxurious estate belonged to his employer, not him. His designer clothes were borrowed, his stories embellished. The shocking reality hit Adaobi hard. Femi was not a billionaire or an oil mogul. He was, in fact, just a well-dressed servant, skilled at weaving enticing tales. Crushed by her own misguided judgments and the stark reality of her situation, Adaobi found herself at a crossroads, far from the life she had envisioned and now estranged from the only man who had truly loved her for who she was. As the sun set over Lagos, casting long shadows over the city, Adaobi sat alone in a small rented room, pondering her next move in a game she realized she had been playing all wrong. Adaobi's newfound reality was stark and devoid of the glitter she had imagined. The walls of the room where she now resided were bare, the stark contrast to the opulent estate where she once believed she would reside. Femi's charm had faded, leaving behind the bitter taste of deception. The truth that he was merely a servant, a man behind the facade of wealth, gnawed at her spirit daily. In her solitude, Adaobi's thoughts often wandered back to Chike, her husband, whose genuine love she had traded for a mirage. She recalled his laughter echoing in their modest flat, the warmth of his touch, and the sincerity in his eyes, all things she now realized were true riches she had foolishly discarded. Meanwhile, Chike, left to mend a heart torn by betrayal, found solace in his work. His students, unaware of their teacher's personal turmoil, continued to thrive under his guidance. His passion for teaching, once shared so intimately with Adobe, now became his refuge. In the classrooms, amidst chalk dust and eager minds, Cheek slowly began to piece together his dignity and self-worth that had been shattered by Adobe's departure. Back in her lonely room, Adobe ventured out only for necessities, her days marked by the monotonous tick of the clock and the pages of books she read to escape her regret. Her interactions with Femi became strained and infrequent. The man who once seemed like her gateway to a world of wealth now avoided her gaze, his own shame perhaps mirroring her disappointment. One afternoon, as she navigated the crowded markets of Lagos, Adaobi's path crossed with Ngozi, an old school friend who greeted her with a warmth that Adaobi felt she no longer deserved. Surprised and somewhat hesitant, Adaobi engaged in a conversation that steered towards life's unpredictable tides. Ngozi, wise beyond her years, spoke of her own trials and the resilience she had cultivated. "We often chase shadows, Adaobi, thinking them to be substance," she said, her voice a soothing balm to Adaobi's troubled soul. "But when light shines, shadows disappear. What remains is what's real and true." These words struck a chord in Adaobi, prompting a reflection on the shadows she had chased, mistaking them for the fulfillment of her desires. Days turned into weeks, and Adaobi found herself frequenting places where she and Cheek had once found joy together. The park where they had walked hand in hand, the small cafe where they celebrated her birthday years ago, each visit a step on her path towards understanding and acceptance. As the dry season approached, bringing with it the Harmattan winds, Adaobi's perspective began to clear, much like the skies after the dusty air settled. She recognized the folly in her pursuit of a facade, understanding now that the essence of true wealth was in the love and contentment she had once known with Cheek. With each passing day, her resolve strengthened. Adaobi knew she could not rewrite the past, nor could she predict what the future held. But in the present, she could make choices that spoke of her learning and her longing to find her way back to a life not of outward wealth, but of inner richness. In the busy streets of Lagos, life surged around her, a relentless stream of energy and movement. Here, in the heartbeat of her city, Adaobi took her first steps towards redemption, each one laden with the hope of forgiveness and the possibility of renewal. As the city thrived around her, Adaobi realized that her most profound lessons had come not from the heights of imagined wealth, but from the depths of her own mistakes and the journey back to herself. As the Harmattan winds softened, so did Adaobi's hardened edges of regret and remorse. Her steps through the streets of Lagos now carried a lighter weight, a subtle shift towards reclamation of her essence and self-respect. The city, in its relentless motion, seemed to mirror her internal transformations, each corner whispering of endurance and resilience. One crisp morning, Adaobi decided to visit the local library, a place she and Chaik had often frequented during the early days of their union. As she walked through the rows of books, her fingers trailed along the spines, each title a reminder of a moment shared, a discussion had, or a dream whispered in the quiet of their modest home. It was here, among the musty scent of old pages and the silence that spoke volumes, that Adaobi stumbled upon a book about African folktales, its pages worn from many hands flipping through it. She pulled it from the shelf, a sense of nostalgia enveloping her as she remembered Chaik's animated voice recounting such stories, his eyes alight with the magic of narrative and lore. As she read, a tale about a fox and a crow, cleverly weaving lessons of wisdom and the perils of flattery, Adaobi felt a kinship with the stories. They were imbued with the wisdom of ages, telling of folly and wisdom, pride and humility, themes that resonated deeply with her own experiences. Emboldened by the stories of old, Adaobi started visiting the library more frequently, each visit strengthening her resolve to mend the fabric of her life that she had torn so recklessly. She volunteered at the library, helping to organize community readings for children, her heart swelling with a sense of purpose as she saw the young faces light up with joy and wonder at the stories. Meanwhile, Chaik, who had immersed himself deeper into his teaching and community work, heard about the reading sessions at the library. His curiosity piqued when colleagues mentioned a woman whose storytelling captivated her young audiences. Though he suspected it could be Adaobi, he hesitated. The wound of her departure still tender, Adaobi, in her new role, began to see the powerful impact of stories. They were not just tales of old, but tools of healing and connection. Her own story, fraught with mistakes and learning, seemed less a burden in this light, and more a narrative of growth and redemption. One evening, as the library's doors were about to close, Chike stepped inside. His presence, once so familiar and now so strange, halted Adaobi in her tracks. They stood across from each other, a chasm of hurt and history between them, yet a bridge of shared stories and memories too. Chike spoke first, his voice steady but soft. "I heard about the sessions, about the stories that have brought new joy here. I wanted to see it for myself." Adaobi, her heart in her throat, managed a small smile. "Stories are powerful, aren't they? They can mend hearts, maybe even bridges." The air around them was thick with unsaid words and unshed tears. They spoke of trivial things at first, the weather, the library's old walls needing paint, the latest book donations, but gradually their conversation ventured into deeper waters. They shared their individual growths, their solitary reflections, and the silent acknowledgements of each other's pain and healing. As they conversed, the library around them seemed to breathe a life of its own, the walls echoing with whispers of countless tales of redemption, each book a testament to life's complex, beautiful narratives. In this sanctuary of words and wisdom, Chike and Adaobi began to weave a new chapter, not of their past mistakes, but of their present understanding, and their hopes tinted with cautious optimism. As they stepped out of the library into the cooling evening, the setting sun cast long shadows on the ground, stretching behind them, as if pulling at the threads of their new beginning, woven with the vibrant, enduring colors of forgiveness and hope. As the Lagos sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the bustling city, Adaobi and Chike found themselves walking side by side, their footsteps a tentative rhythm on the dusty path. The air around them was filled with the cacophony of daily life winding down, yet within this ordinary setting, a silent understanding began to unfold between them. The weeks that followed saw Adaobi continuing her storytelling sessions at the library, each story carefully chosen to inspire and educate. Her passion for folktales had blossomed into a powerful medium for teaching life's lessons, drawing more families to the weekend gatherings. Chike, on his part, began to attend these sessions, not just as an observer, but as a participant, sharing his own insights and helping with organizing books and seating. Their reconnection was gradual, like the slow nurturing of a plant long thought dormant. In the shared space of the library, surrounded by tales of old, their conversations deepened, weaving through topics of personal growth, community impact, and the timeless wisdom found in African folklore. Chike, inspired by the transformative effect of the stories on the children and their parents, proposed an idea one evening as they were closing up the library. "What if we take these stories beyond these walls? There are so many who could benefit from these lessons, but can't come here." Adaobi, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm, agreed immediately. "We could start a mobile library, bring books to different neighborhoods. We could have readings under the neem trees, by the markets, anywhere people gather." The project, dubbed Tales Under the Sun, quickly took shape with the help of volunteers from the community. Chike's organizational skills and Adaobi's flair for engaging audiences proved to be a formidable combination. Together, they traveled around Lagos, their mobile library a vibrant beacon of learning and connection, drawing curious crowds eager to hear the rich tapestries of stories unfold. As they worked together, the bond between them strengthened, fortified by shared goals and mutual respect for each other's talents. Their evenings after the storytelling sessions often ended at a local eatery, where they discussed the day's events over steaming plates of jollof rice and suya. One such evening, as a gentle breeze stirred the air, Adaobi looked across the table at Chike, noticing the laughter lines more pronounced around his eyes, the same eyes that now looked back at her with a softness she had missed dearly. It was during these moments, in the simplicity of shared meals and shared dreams, that they rediscovered the friendship that had been the foundation of their marriage. Their initiative continued to grow, and so did their rekindled relationship. News of their mobile library spread, attracting attention from local media. An interview conducted under the shade of an ancient baobab tree captured the essence of their mission: to bring stories to life and life to stories, fostering a love for reading and a deeper understanding of cultural heritage. As the months passed, the landscapes they visited changed with the seasons, but the warmth of the community responses remained constant. Children eagerly anticipated the arrival of the storytelling duo, their faces alight with the joy of anticipation, mirroring the spark that had reignited between Chike and Adaobi. In the fabric of their daily lives, interwoven with the threads of stories, community, and shared purpose, Adaobi and Chaik found a rhythm that was new yet familiar. Each story told, each smile shared, and each place visited added layers to their relationship, transforming it into something more profound than either had anticipated. Under the expansive African sky, as they packed away books and folded chairs, their hands occasionally brushed, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they were crafting together, not back to where they had been, but forward to something entirely new. In the simple acts of packing books and planning routes, they found their strength, a testament to the enduring power of love and stories, forever entwined in the tapestry of their lives. In the heart of Lagos, as another day gently yielded to twilight, Adeobi and Cheek prepared for an evening session of their mobile library under the sprawling limbs of an ancient mango tree. The community had gathered, a colorful mosaic of eager faces illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns hung from the branches above. The scene was set not just for storytelling, but for a communal experience that had begun to knit the fabric of the neighborhood more tightly together. That evening, Adeobi chose a tale that resonated deeply with her own experiences, a story about Anansi, the cunning spider from West African mythology, known for his wisdom and trickery. As she narrated Anansi's latest escapades, her voice, rich with emotion and imbued with the nuances of the spider's clever antics, captivated her audience. Cheek watched her, admiration glowing in his eyes for the way she brought the story to life, each character a vivid stroke on the canvas of their imaginations. Post-story discussions had become a staple of their sessions, a time when the morals and themes of the tales were debated and discussed. Chaik facilitated these with a gentle hand, guiding but never leading, allowing the community to find their own meanings and lessons within the woven narratives. One evening, a wise elder from the community, Mama Ifi, who had lived under the shadow of the mango tree for decades, stood to speak. Her voice was weathered but strong, and she spoke of how the stories reminded her of the old days, when wisdom was passed down not through books or screens, but through the spoken word under the stars. Inspired by Mama F's words, Adaobi and Cheek decided to incorporate older generations into their storytelling circle, inviting them to share their stories and wisdom. This new segment, Echoes of the Elders, quickly became a favorite, enriching the sessions with personal histories and folk wisdom that had seen many seasons. Their project, Tales Under the Sun, soon wove its way into the fabric of other communities across Lagos. Adaobi and Chike found themselves traveling to distant neighborhoods, each with its own rhythm and stories to tell. Their library grew, not just in books but in stories collected from the people they met, a living archive of the city's heartbeat. As the initiative expanded, Adaobi and Cheek began to train volunteers, teaching them not just the art of storytelling, but the essence of community building. These volunteers, equipped with tales and a passion for sharing them, became ambassadors of their mission, spreading the joy of stories further than Adaobi and Cheek could have ever managed alone. One particularly hot day, as they set up their mobile library in a new neighborhood, they were surprised by a visit from Femi, Adaobi's former acquaintance. The last vestiges of his pretense had faded away, leaving behind a man humbled by life's twists. He watched the session from a distance, a spectator to the unity and joy that stories could bring. After the children had scampered away, their laughter lingering in the air like the afternotes of a joyful song, Femi approached Adaobi and Cheek. His apology was sincere, tinged with regret for the role he had played in their past strife. Adaobi, with a tranquility that had come from months of healing and understanding, accepted his apology. Cheek too offered his forgiveness, recognizing that their present strength was partly built on the trials of their past. As Femi turned to leave, a child tugged at his sleeve, asking him to stay for the next story. Smiling, Femi sat down among the listeners, another thread added to the rich tapestry of their community. Under the canopy of the mango tree, as the stars began to twinkle in the gathering dusk, Adeobi started another tale, her voice weaving through the warm night air. Beside her, Cheek prepared the lanterns for the evening, their light a beacon for all those drawn to the age-old allure of a good story, each flicker a testament to the enduring power of forgiveness, growth, and community. As the narrative unfolded, the echoes of the past mingled with the hopes of the present, all captured in the timeless dance of storytelling. Under the age-old mango tree, the echoes of a Daobi storytelling session lingered in the air, blending with the hum of the Lagos night. The community, now dispersing under the starlit sky, carried with them the seeds of tales spun that evening, each story a stitch in the vibrant quilt of their shared heritage. As the weeks unfolded, the reach of Tales Under the Sun extended beyond the familiar streets of their neighborhood to the bustling markets and quiet suburbs of Lagos, each location a new canvas for their stories. Adaobi and Chik found themselves at the heart of a cultural revival, one that celebrated the oral traditions that had defined their ancestors' way of life. One morning, as the sun cast a golden hue over the city, Adaobi received a call from a local school principal. He had heard of their project and extended an invitation to bring their stories to his students. Thrilled at the opportunity to influence young minds, Adaobi and Chik prepared a special lineup of tales, each selected to inspire and instill values of courage, integrity, and community. Arriving at the school, they were greeted by a sea of curious faces, the children's anticipation palpable. As Chik set up the makeshift stage, Adaobi mingled with the students, her presence a magnetic pull. When the bell rang, signaling the start of their session, the air buzzed with excitement. Adaobi opened with the story of the tortoise and the hare, a classic fable reimagined with local flavors and characters. The children laughed at the tortoise's clever antics and cheered when he crossed the finish line, a reminder of the rewards of patience and strategy. Chik followed, leading a discussion that encouraged the children to share their thoughts on the story's lessons. Their visit to the school became a regular occurrence, each session building on the last, reinforcing the value of stories not just as entertainment, but as vital tools for learning and personal growth. In response to the growing demand for their sessions, Adaobi and Chik launched a training program for storytellers. They reached out to elders in the community who were eager to pass on their knowledge and techniques. These training sessions, held under the canopy of the community's oldest trees, became a sanctuary where traditional storytelling methods were preserved and innovated. The storytellers who emerged from these trainings began to host their own sessions, creating ripples that turned into waves of narrative influence across Lagos. Each new storyteller brought their unique voice and style, enriching the project with diversity and depth. As the project flourished, Adaobi took a step back one evening, watching a young storyteller captivate an audience with a tale she had once told. It was a surreal moment, seeing her influence bloom in others, their voices carrying the legacy she and Chik had nurtured. The success of Tales Under the Sun eventually caught the attention of cultural foundations, eager to support initiatives that fostered community and cultural identity. With the backing of these foundations, Adaobi and Chik were able to expand their resources, introducing audio-visual aids and printed storybooks that complemented their oral sessions. One evening, during a particularly vibrant storytelling festival organized in the heart of the city, Adaobi looked around at the faces of the community. Children, parents, elders, all united under the spell of shared tales. Chik, standing beside her, squeezed her hand gently, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had embarked on together. As the festival continued into the night, the stories flowed like rivers, each tale a tributary feeding into the vast ocean of their collective history. The laughter, the sighs, and the applause blended into a melody that resonated through the city, a song of unity and heritage that transcended the boundaries of their individual lives. In the cool night air, as the final story wound to a close, the community lingered, not yet ready to break the enchantment. The tales had woven them together, threads of countless narratives forming a tapestry rich with the hues of wisdom, bravery, and love. Under the glow of lanterns, with the city around them pulsing with its own perennial rhythm, the stories continued, each one a bridge to the past and a beacon to the future, forever uniting the storytellers with their spellbound listeners. As the storytelling festival beneath the stars concluded, the vibrant threads of narratives lingered in the minds of all who attended, weaving a collective memory rich with cultural heritage. Adaobi and Chik watched as the lanterns were lowered and the crowd slowly dispersed, their hearts full from the magic of shared stories and the visible bonds it created among the listeners. In the following days, the impact of the festival rippled through Lagos, sparking conversations in homes, schools, and marketplaces about the tales that had been told and the wisdom they carried. This heightened interest in their storytelling project inspired Adaobi and Chik to think even bigger. They decided to create a series of workshops for local schools designed to teach students not only about storytelling, but about their cultural history through the narratives passed down from generation to generation. These workshops, titled Voices of Our Ancestors, were met with enthusiasm from educators and parents alike, eager for children to connect with their roots in a meaningful way. Adaobi, with her innate ability to connect with young minds, led the workshops with a blend of stories and interactive activities that made the past come alive. Cheek, with his methodical nature, handled the logistical aspects, ensuring that each session was equipped with the necessary materials to facilitate learning and engagement. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Children came alive as they acted out scenes from folktales, embodying the cunning of Anansi or the wisdom of the tortoise, their laughter and cheers filling the classrooms. Teachers reported a renewed interest in reading and history among the students, and parents noticed their children retelling the stories at home, often with their own creative twists. Encouraged by the success of the workshops, Adaobi and Cheek expanded their reach to community centers, where they hosted evening storytelling sessions for families. These gatherings became a cherished part of community life, a time when distractions were set aside and people of all ages came together to listen and learn. As the initiative grew, so did the team of storytellers. Each new volunteer brought their personal flair and insights, enriching the project with a diversity of voices. Adaobi took great pride in mentoring these storytellers, guiding them in the art of narrative delivery and audience engagement. One day, while preparing for a session at a bustling community center, Adaobi was approached by a journalist who had been covering cultural events in the city. Impressed by the scope and impact of Tales Under the Sun, he proposed a feature article for a major national magazine. Thrilled at the opportunity to share their mission with a wider audience, Adaobi and Cheek agreed enthusiastically. The article, when published, painted a vivid picture of their work, highlighting how storytelling could bridge gaps between generations and revitalize interest in Nigeria's rich cultural tapestry. The feature drew significant attention, leading to invitations for Adaobi and Cheek to speak at cultural festivals and educational conferences across the country. As they traveled, sharing their vision and learning from others, Adaobi and Cheek saw the universal power of stories to unite and heal. Each place they visited added layers to their understanding of storytelling's role in preserving heritage and fostering community cohesion. Back in Lagos, as they planned for another storytelling festival, this time even larger than the first, Adaobi paused to reflect on the growth of their project. From a simple desire to share stories under a mango tree to a nationwide movement that celebrated and preserved culture, their efforts had seeded a revival of interest in traditional narratives. In preparation for the festival, they reached out to elders in distant communities, inviting them to share their tales and wisdom. These invitations were met with honor and enthusiasm, as the elders saw an opportunity to pass on their legacies to the next generation. As the day of the festival dawned, the community came together once again, each person eager to partake in the celebration of stories. The air was filled with anticipation and the rich sense of local cuisine prepared for the event. Children donned costumes representing various folklore characters, their faces painted, their spirits high. Under the vast canopy of the sky, the festival unfolded with a tapestry of voices, each telling a tale that echoed the past and sang to the future. The ground beneath them thrummed with the heartbeat of their land, a rhythm unchanged by time, carried forward through the stories that defined them. As the evening drew to a close, the community stood united, their voices raised in songs and stories, a powerful affirmation of their shared heritage and collective identity. As the festival night deepened, the voices of the elders rose in harmony with the vibrant energy of the gathering. Their stories, rich with wisdom and history, flowed like a river through the generations, connecting the young and old in a circle of shared memory. Adaobi and Cheek moved quietly among the crowd, ensuring that every storyteller had a chance to speak, every listener a place to sit. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of unity, the kind that could only come from a deep appreciation of the past and a shared commitment to the future. One elder, Baba Ola, stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of countless tales. He spoke of the founding of Lagos, of the first traders who crossed the waters, and of the spirits who guided them. The children sat wide-eyed, their imaginations painting vivid pictures of the ancient city, while the adults nodded in recognition of a history that shaped their lives. As Baba Ola finished, a young girl, no more than 10, shyly approached the stage. Encouraged by Adaobi's gentle smile, she began to tell a story she had learned from her grandmother, a tale of a clever monkey who outwitted a fierce leopard. Her voice, though soft, held the crowd in rapt attention, her words a bridge between the old and the new. The festival continued late into the night, each tale adding to the rich tapestry that had been woven over the years. The sounds of drums and singing filled the air, blending with the crackling of fires that warmed the gathering. Laughter and applause punctuated the stories, creating a rhythm that echoed across the night. As the last tale was told and the final song sung, the festival drew to a close. The elders, their voices now quiet, looked on with pride at the younger generation, knowing that the stories would live on in them. The children, tired but exhilarated, clung to their parents, their minds still dancing with the images the stories had conjured. Adobe and Cheek stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as the crowd slowly dispersed. The festival had been a resounding success, a testament to the power of storytelling and the deep bonds it could create within a community. The night air was cool as they began to gather the remaining lanterns and chairs, their hearts full. The stories would continue, in different forms and places, but always with the same purpose: to connect, to teach, and to preserve the essence of who they were. As they walked back towards the city, hand in hand, the glow of the festival lingered behind them, a beacon of hope and tradition that would light their path in the days to come. In the days following the festival, the echoes of the stories told under the night sky lingered throughout Lagos. People spoke of the tales in marketplaces, at bus stops, and in their homes, the festival having left a mark on the city's collective spirit. The sense of unity it fostered was palpable, a shared bond strengthened by the power of storytelling. Adaobi and Cheek, energized by the success of the event, turned their attention to a new project. They wanted to document the stories shared during the festival, preserving them for future generations. With the help of volunteers, they began recording the elders' tales, creating an archive that would serve as a cultural treasure for years to come. The process of gathering these stories was meticulous. They visited the homes of the elders, sitting with them in the cool shade of verandas or under the dappled light of fruit trees. As the elders recounted their stories, Adaobi and Cheek listened intently, capturing every detail, every inflection of voice that brought the tales to life. These sessions were more than just recordings, they were moments of deep connection. The elders, some of whom had thought their knowledge forgotten, were delighted to share their stories. They spoke of their youth, of old customs, and of the changes they had witnessed over the years. Each tale was a thread, weaving together the history and culture of their people. As the archive grew, Adaobi and Cheek began to organize the material into collections. They envisioned these collections not just as a resource for future storytellers, but as educational tools for schools and community centers. The stories, they believed, could teach values, history, and the importance of cultural heritage. To make the stories more accessible, they collaborated with artists to illustrate the tales, turning them into beautifully crafted books that could be shared with children. These books, with their vibrant images and rich narratives, became an instant hit, sparking the imaginations of young readers and ensuring that the stories would continue to be told. The impact of their work extended beyond Lagos. Word of their efforts spread to other parts of Nigeria, and soon requests came in for similar projects in other cities and regions. Adaobi and Cheek began to train other communities in the art of preserving and sharing their stories, empowering them to create their own archives and festivals. Their work had transformed from a local initiative into a nationwide movement, one that celebrated the diversity and richness of Nigerian culture. It was a movement rooted in the belief that stories are the threads that connect people, that they are the foundation upon which communities are built. As they continued their work, Adaobi and Cheek found themselves at the heart of a cultural renaissance, one that honored the past while looking towards the future. The stories they had helped preserve were not just tales of old. They were living, breathing narratives that continued to shape the lives of those who heard them. As the years passed, the impact of Adaobi and Cheek's work grew deeper, leaving an indelible mark on communities across Nigeria. The archives they had created became a cherished resource, housed in libraries, schools, and community centers, where children and adults alike could delve into the rich tapestry of their cultural heritage. The storytelling festivals, which had begun as a small local event, now spanned the country, each region adding its unique flavor to the celebrations. From the bustling streets of Lagos to the quiet villages of the north, people gathered to share and listen, their voices rising together in a chorus of tradition and unity. Adaobi and Chike, now recognized as cultural custodians, were often invited to speak at conferences and events, their insights sought by educators, historians, and community leaders. Yet despite the recognition, they remained humble, always returning to the roots of their work, the simple yet profound act of sharing stories under the open sky. One evening, as they prepared for yet another festival, this time in a coastal town where the sea breeze carried the scent of salt and adventure, Adaobi and Cheek sat together, reflecting on their journey. The archive they had built was more than just a collection of stories. It was a testament to the resilience and creativity of their people, a living record of a culture that had endured through the ages. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the ocean, they watched as the first of the festival goers began to gather. Children chased each other along the shore, their laughter mingling with the sound of the waves, while elders found their places near the fire, ready to share their wisdom once more. The evening unfolded in a familiar rhythm, stories told, songs sung, and the joyous connection of community under the vast African sky. As the final tale of the night was shared, a story of a young boy who discovered the power of his own voice, the crowd sat in hushed awe, the flames flickering in their eyes. When the story ended, there was a moment of silence, as if everyone was holding on to the last echoes of the words spoken. Then, as one, the crowd erupted into applause, not just for the storyteller, but for the stories themselves, for the lives they touched and the connections they forged. Adaobi and Chike stood together, their hearts full as they looked out over the gathering. They knew that what they had helped to nurture was far greater than anything they could have imagined. It was a legacy of stories that would continue to grow, passed down from one generation to the next, each one adding to the rich fabric of their shared history. As they walked back along the shore, the sound of the waves a soothing lullaby, they held hands, content in the knowledge that their work had made a difference. The stories, like the tide, would keep coming, bringing with them the wisdom of the past and the hope of the future. And so, under the endless sky and beside the eternal sea, the legacy of Adaobi and Chike lived on, through every story told, every lesson learned, and every heart touched by the timeless power of the spoken word.